Everybody, welcome back to another video where I'm a little bit late because it's fucking Saturday, but we're gonna go and show each and every okay, actually, let me not get ahead of myself here, right? Let me just give you the little story before we go on. I'm gonna do a quick little preview of all of the week 1 matchups, see where everything went right and wrong for people. Then we're gonna hop into predicting the week 2 matchups, which already unfortunately have the Thursday Night Football scores because it was the first full week of school, and I was stressed out of my mind, and low-key forgot to record it. So we're going to record this on Saturday night, and we're going to start off with my matchup, where this sucked, right? I was facing Justin Fields, who had one of his best fantasy games of his entire career, and if you look at this actually looks pretty even, right? Penix Daniels to Fields Love was pretty even. Running backs, I definitely had the edge. Bucky and Jahmyr Gibbs had roughly the same amount of had the exact same amount of points, sorry. And McCaffrey blew out Jonathan Taylor. But then we go down to my wide receiver room where Terry McLaurin and Matthew Golden just pulled an absolute shit fest on me while Lad McConkey dropped 13. Devonta was pretty bad. I started Chig. As you can see, he's now off. Oh yeah, I have a lot of people off the roster. I made some moves going into this week. Chigakonko was ass. Laporta was good. Olave was surprising. He's also off the roster. Chubb was okay. Devontae and Jamo were I actually lost to his kicker, who decided to score 12 points, and both of our defenses sucked. And I had Dalton Kincaid absolutely pop off on the bench, which would have let me win. Then we go to Kawhi versus Cam, and this was just terrible for Kawhi, right? You have Tua Tagovailoa, who just had a terrible game. Bo Nix had a bad game. Bryce Young had a bad game. Trevor Lawrence had a bad game. It was a bad week for the quarterbacks overall, but then you go down to the running backs. James Cook for Kawhi had a great game. Kawhi is ISO gang, by the way. But Kenneth Walker shit the bed, and deadass was RB2 to Charbonnet. And then you go down, you see Josh Jacobs and Chase Brown have pretty solid days. JSN and CeeDee Lamb for Kawhi absolutely fried. Jerry Jeudy, Jamar Chase. As you can see by all the off rosters, a lot of trades have happened recently. But CD and JSN definitely outscored Chase and Jeudy. Even Bowers cooked. Cortland Sutton and Amika Egbuka fried Kawhi. And the Ravens defense fried Kawhi. If Kawhi started Caleb Williams, he had a shot to win this. I think, actually, if he started Caleb Williams over Tua, he wins this week, which sucks for him. But Cam wins relatively decisively, right? Jay versus Glitch's Braden, right? So, another team with a lot of off rosters. Y'all are going to see the new rosters, don't worry. Kyler and Drake May were solid. Joe Burrow had a bad week, but Baker cooked. He's now off the roster. Devon Achane and Ginty combined for 30. Hampton and Bijan combined for about 35-ish. Nico and T. Higgins were rough. Amon-Ra and Pickens were rough. Warren and Kittle were good. Shakir and Henderson were fine. Pearsall and Diggs were fine. Boswell. This was a very even matchup. Very down to the wire. Jay comes out with the win. Magnolia actually killed Burrow. This was a mugging. Jared Goff and CJ Stroud were complete and utter garbage, while Josh Allen dropped 44 points. Purdy, who is now out, by the way. Chuba Hubbard had a great game. Kyron had a good game for Burrow. Pacheco and Pollard weren't as great. Jacoby and BTJ outdid Mike Evans and Malik Neighbors. Evan Ingram outdid a really shitty performance from Andrews. But then Marvin Harrison kind of brought it back. Both defenses scored a lot, but based on QBs alone, the rest of the matchup looks pretty even. But Josh Allen basically alone killed Burrow. Go down to Dials versus Adams in what I think was the highest scoring game of the week by far. Adams did come out with the win, even with lackluster QB play and worse running back play. Unfortunately, Dials' wide receivers did not come to play, as we see A.J. Brown and Ted McMillan get absolutely fried by Puka and Drake London. You see McBride take out Tucker Kraft. Worthy got hurt, which sucks. Travis Etienne had a 20-point game. Javante had a 22-point game. Aaron Jones had a good game, which is surprising, actually. Carlson outdid McPherson. The Commanders' defense, yet this was just a great week for both sides. Very bright futures for both teams. So now, a quick standings update. Adams is in first. ATS is in... sorry. Ignore me. ATS defeated Montez, who I laughed at for having Ali Gordon. Oh, hey, look, if you had a real running back, you would have won this week. Wow, it's like I said that. Sam Darnold was complete utter dog shit. Russell wasn't much better. Lamar brought it back. Jalen brought it back. Derrick Henry killed the Bills' defense, which absolutely carried Lamar and Derrick Henry accumulated for roughly half of Montez's points. Garrett Wilson went off. Reek was ass. Hunter was fine. Jettis was fine. And Njoku and Hawkinson were both Zay Flowers fried for ATS. Ridley and Kupp were terrible flexes this week. Metcalf was pretty solid. Overall, good matchup for ATS. Good win for him. So now we'll go over the standings, where in the AFC you have Adams, ATS, and Cam all at 1-0. Dials, Montez, Kawhi at 0-1. You have Magnolia, J-, Braden, me, and Burrow. But just to be a little bit more specific, if you want actual seeding, as you can see, I was easily the second most accurate, third most accurate. I was fourth. Oh wow, never mind. But the real standings: Adams in first, Magnolia in second, ATS in third, Jay in fourth, Minus in fifth, Cam in sixth, Dials in seventh, Braden in eighth, me in ninth, Montez in 10th, Kawhi in 11th, and Burrow in last, which will bring us to our first matchup of week 2, where it is going to be me, the 9 seed me versus 12 seed Burrow. And Jaden Daniels had a pretty solid performance again. Terry was better than he was last week, but it was just a little shaky. Matthew Golden was complete ass. We got Justin Herbert in the lineup. We traded away Michael Penix for some assets. Specifically, as you can see in my RB2 slot, Chuba Hubbard, a very needed running back on this team that I was frankly lacking after I traded Bucky Irving for Amon-Ra St. Brown and Dylan Sampson. So, I have Daniels and Herbert outdoing Goff and Stroud, especially from what we saw last week. I think Goff will have a bounce-back game, but I don't know how much I trust that Texans offensive line. I don't really know if they're going to win the division this year. Justin Herbert is going to kill the Raiders' defense. We saw with Drake May. Drake May had a career high in passing last week against the Raiders with an extremely questionable secondary at the moment. I just don't know if that's sustainable. I think Justin Herbert's going to kill them. Christian McCaffrey is on a team where basically the entire offense is hurt. I think he might honestly get 50 touches this week. That's going to be great for me. Chuba Hubbard, he was pretty good last week, and he's going to be pretty good this week. I have no doubt that Kyron is going to cook Tennessee. Pacheco against the Eagles, I have no faith in, right? Terry was okay against the Packers. I expected a little more from him, but at this point I'm starting to lose faith. Amon-Ra St. Brown, welcome to the team, my guy. Please have a good bounce-back weekend against Chicago. And then we have Malik Neighbors and Mike Evans, who I think are both going to be very solid. Mike Evans might get contained by Derek Stingley in this game. They might also have Stingley on Igbuka. We'll see how that plays out. Malik Neighbors facing the Cowboys is either going to go really, really well or really, really bad. We'll see. Evan Ingram was okay last week. Dalton Kincaid popped off against the Ravens defense. Think what he could do to that Jets defense that was getting absolutely torched by the Steelers last week. I think Kincaid's in for a great week this week. As you already saw, Matthew Golden was complete shit for me this week. He quite literally, his only yards were rushing yards. Good job, man. And then we have Marv against the Panthers. I think Marv is going to have a pretty good week. Jaden Reed, my saving grace, Jaden Reed, because that's what's going to cancel out the Matthew Golden performance. Because Jaden Reed, and I never wish injury on a guy. This is actually really unfortunate because I was watching the game, And Jaden Reed went down really early with an injury. He broke I believe, his collarbone. Sorry about that. Low-key got cut off. But then, as we can see, the Matthew Golden the performance is going to basically just get rid of the whole Matthew Golden problem. Jaden Reed completely crapping, not crapping the bed. I'm sorry, that was insensitive. He got injured in the first quarter and broken collarbone. He's probably going to be out for a while. Pretty rough. I'm sorry. Wish you a speedy recovery. And Quentin Johnston was kind of... Here, we're actually going to look at this because Quentin Johnston finished as wide receiver 3 last week with almost 25 points. I'm not saying he's going to do that again, but I think against a Raiders team, I think he could get at least maybe 15 to 20. So we'll see how that goes. And then the only thing I really want to mention here is the fact that I'm facing the Broncos defense, who are facing the Colts, who are either going to drop 30 or 5. We're hoping for the 30, because I don't want to deal with the Broncos defense dropping 15 points on me. If everything goes my way, okay. I think with his shaky quarterback situation, his relatively shaky running back situation, Jaden Reed being out and dropping a goose egg for him, I think I have this one in the bag, respectfully. Knock on wood. Second matchup we're going to be going over is the 11 seed Kawhi taking on the 1 seed Adams. We're going to kick off with the quarterbacks, where clearly Kawhi has learned his lesson about Tua Tagovailoa. He is now putting Caleb Williams, as well as keeping in Trevor Lawrence against Dak Prescott and Matthew Stafford. Yeah, you didn't expect the 1 seed to have a Dak and Stafford QB room, huh? Caleb had a great week last week, fantasy-wise. Trevor, not so much. Dak, not so much. Stafford, not so much. But, running backs, James Cook and Devon Achane might be one of the best running backs currently, like one of the best RB duos in the league currently. On the other side, James Conner, who I'm not huge on, but against the Panthers defense, I think it's pretty viable. He'll at least have like a good 10, 15, maybe 20 points. Breece Hall, we saw what Derrick Henry did to that run defense. Breece Hall is no Derrick Henry. It's still a 3-headed monster in the backfield, but especially with Justin Fields, but I do think that Breece Hall is still going to be a viable fantasy option. We go over here, we see some differences. Adams last week had Drake London at wide receiver 2. He now faces Drake London, with also Jalen Waddle at wide receiver 2, which I don't love for Kawhi here. Puka, CD, Lamb, in what is probably one of the best wide receiver duos in the league. Go down Bowers, who's questionable, but I think he'll be fine, hopefully, for his sake. Trey McBride, I think, will also be a great, especially against Carolina. Jalen Warren, Aaron Jones, don't love it. Keenan Allen, don't love it. Travis Etienne, especially with the Tank Bigsby trade. I think that Travis Etienne is going to absolutely pick apart this Bengals defense. I think Travis Etienne is going to be a top running back this season, especially after what I saw last week, even though it was the Panthers, so I will calm myself a little bit. The Commanders, of course, got Adams his 2.4 points. The Ravens defense, I think they'll be perfectly fine this week. They go up against Cleveland. I think this is a tough matchup to call. I think both sides have very good upside. I'm going to give this to Adams because I think the flexes are a huge question mark. I think Jalen Waddle at wide receiver 2 is extremely iffy. I'm not a big fan of Matthew Stafford as a fantasy option, especially with only 16 last week. Even Dak played well, but fantasy-wise he wasn't great. But I think overall Adams will get the win this week. Next, we have the 4 seed Jay taking on the 5 seed minus the Battle of the Commissioners. As you can see, we're kicking off with Jordan Love with a 25 bomb on Jay's head. Great start for Jordan Love to get minus on the board. Justin Fields against the Bills defense. We'll see how that plays out. Personally, as a Jets fan, I don't think it's going to play out very well, unfortunately. But I'm going to support my team. We're going to hope and pray. We'll see. Going up against Kyler and Drake May, and God, if the Colts offense did that to the Dolphins, then the Dolphins might average Bengals numbers from last year. Drake May could dead ass go for like 30 fucking points this week because the Dolphins looked terrible against the Colts. It was a complete shit show. I'm gonna give the QB room. I think I'm gonna give it slightly to minus here. I think with Jordan Love solidifying a good week, I think it's gonna be huge for him. And I don't know about Kyler, if I'm being honest. Kyler, even with his scrambling upside, finished QB 16. That's not great. Then we have Jahmyr Gibbs, Jonathan Taylor, another one in contention for best running back room. And then you have Omarion Hampton, Bijan Robinson, which by the end of the season could be the best RB room. I don't know about right now, but it totally could be. I love Bijan to go for at least 20 points against the Niners, or not the Niners, the Vikings. I think Gibbs is going to have I think the Lions offense in general is going to have a bounce back week. I think the Packers defense might just be elite at this point, especially with what we saw against the Commanders on Thursday. I think that Jonathan Taylor, even facing a rough Broncos defense, will still get you at least 10 to 15 points. I don't think he'll go nuclear like he did last week. Granted, no, never mind. He didn't do as well as... These numbers don't tell the whole story, because he was dominating when he was in, right? But then, unfortunately, he took a hard hit, and they took him out and let DJ Giddens run the rest of the game, which fairs they were winning by a landslide. I think JT will be fine. Omarion Hampton against the Raiders defense. We'll see what he can do against guys like Max Crosby on the D-line, but overall I think Omarion Hampton's going to be a great running back option this season, even with a bit of a rough week 1 against the Chiefs. Go down to wide receivers. Ladd McConkey, Devonta Smith for minus. I think Devonta Smith will not be complete garbage like he was last week. Not sure about how good he'll be, but I think he'll be fine. I think at the lowest, maybe like 5 points. We'll see. Ladd McConkey should do pretty well against this Las Vegas DB room. Same kind of situation with Quentin Johnston. Quentin actually outscored Ladd last week. I think Ladd was actually wide receiver 3 on the Chargers last week as Keenan Allen also popped off, but that's not going to stay the same for the rest of the season. I think Ladd is the number 1 guy. Then you go over to Jay, where you got Nico and T. Higgins. The Bengals are projected to be in the number 1 scoring game of the week. I think that T. Higgins will be perfectly okay. I think T. Higgins will get you at least 10 to 15 points. Nico Collins, I don't know how to feel. I mean, the Tampa Bay DB room outside of Winfield and a couple other underrated guys in the corner room, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of it, but we saw how bad that offensive line was in week 1. We saw how absolutely atrocious the offense looked. CJ couldn't pass for a single touchdown. Nico only had I think he had 4 points exactly. 5-5. Okay, a little bit more, but Nico just simply was not good. Go down. Hunter Henry starting for Jay. What happened to his other tight end? He's not even there anymore. I don't know what happened there. Against Miami, though, could do fine. Sam Laporta should do fine. Can't imagine he'll do too bad against the Bears, but I mean, I guess there are a lot of mouths to feed in that. Jordan Mason, Ricky Pearsall at flex. I love Pearsall. They don't have a lot of their weapons. Also, sorry if my voice is a little choky. My allergies are fucking with me today. But yeah. I think that Ricky Pearsall will be a very good flex option this week. Jordan Mason, I think Jordan Mason is slowly getting that RB1 job in Minnesota from Aaron Jones. I think he will end up being RB1 by the end of the season. I don't know how I feel about him starting in week 2. Go to the other side, you have J-Mo, Devontae Adams, a lot of Lions on Minus's team, as we saw from last week, which I still fucking lost. Anyways, but yeah, I think Devontae Adams, even though I appreciated a pretty rough week last week. Yeah, Devontae only had about 9 points. Granted, Matthew Stafford was glazing the shit out of Puka Nacua. And then J-Mo, JMO was also not great with 6-7 points. I think you'll do also fun. We'll see how the Lions offense ends up working out. And then you have the Lions defense, Cowboys defense. I think Cowboys defense is going to dominate this week against the Giants. And then kickers are kickers. I shouldn't say that kickers are kickers, though, because I lost to Tyler Loop last week. I was up 9, and Loop scored 12. That sucked. I didn't have fun. Oh, sorry. I think I'm going to give a slight edge. I'm going to give a slight edge to minus. I don't love Hunter Henry. I don't love Jordan Mason. We don't know how the Texans offense is going to look. I don't know about Kyler. Too many question marks on Jay's team for me to really give him a definitive he's going to win. I think minus is going to take it this week. Match number 4. You got Braden versus Magnolia. Luckily, this one is not riddled by games already played, so we have a clean slate for this one. And Jesus Christ, how did we let Braden is glitch, just so that we know. How did we let Braden end up with this? This man made some moves over the past week. I'll do a trade overview at the end for everyone who wants to see the full. As long as I can, assuming I can figure out how to, I will. But in the QB room, you have Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson. Joe Burrow projected to be in the highest scoring offensive game, of course, and don't love that for Magnolia here. And then he has Lamar Jackson, who he got from Montez, because Montez needed weapons severely, as y'all saw from the Ollie Gordon start. So, and then I traded Magnolia Michael Penix. I got Chuba in return. And then he also has Josh Allen. Josh Allen's going to be great for him. But with facing Burrow and Lamar, that's just tough for Magnolia, isn't it now? Running back room, you got Tyrone Tracy and Tony Pollard for Magnolia. This is... I'm not even going to sugarcoat this shit. That's just ugly to look at, bro. I don't like that, especially since I traded Braden, Bucky Irving. I did get Dylan Sampson and Amon-Ra St. Brown in return. I don't know. I'm still debating if I'm going to play Johnson or Sampson. Y'all can leave that in the comments. And then J.K. Dobbins at RB2. Braden basically has a whole new team, as you can see by the fact that he now has Jamar Chase and Jerry Jeudy as his wide receiver room, who he didn't have either of last week. And my question is, how the hell did we let this happen, man? Like, I don't love this. I think this is terrible for the league. He has Burrow, Lamar, Chase, Bucky. I'm terrified right now. I think he might deadass win the... I think if I had to do an early prediction, I think I'd like to say Braden's going to win the league. Forgot to mention, Braden's the number 8 seed. Magnolia is the 2 seed. But yeah, facing off against BTJ, who had a bit of a rough game, but he's facing the Bengals defense, so I'm not too worried. And Jacoby Myers, who, I mean, he was pretty... I think he was good last week. Yeah. Oh, yeah, no, Jacoby Myers was pretty solid last week. I think he'll do fine. Mark Andrews, Magnolia, you're making it hard to make a case for you, man. Was complete ass last week, frankly. I don't know what happened there. And then Tyler Warren for Braden. DJ Moore, Chris Olave. I traded Magnolia Olave as well. DJ Moore didn't look great. Olave actually looked pretty solid. And then looking at Kenneth Walker, George Pickens. Pickens, I think, will be fine overall. The Cowboys' offense looked pretty decent against the Eagles, at least in the first half. We'll see how that turns out. I don't love K9 in the slot, but I can't deny that he's still probably you should start him, so it's fine. Bills' defense, depending on if the Jets actually want to ball like they did last week, should be fine. I think the Niners' defense might drop 20 points because they're facing the Saints. This is a very easy prediction. Easily the most easy prediction. Braden's going to win by vehicular manslaughter. Match number 5. We have the 7 seed Dials versus the 3 seed ATS. Fun fact, Dials scored more points than ATS. I think Dials was the 3rd highest scorer in the league, but he ended up facing Braden, who was... Or wait, no. Wait, no, Dallas didn't face Braden. Am I bugging? I don't know who Dallas faced. Oh no, Dallas faced Adams, who was the number 1 scorer in the league. Dials was like the number 2 or 3 scorer in the league. Tough break for Dallas there. So kicking off with quarterbacks, running backs, we have Mahomes, McCarthy versus Hurts, Rodgers. We'll see if Rodgers can continue his mean streak or if the Jets defense is just absolute garbage. Jalen Hurts is going to be good no matter what. His rushing upside is going to do some wonders for the man. Mahomes, even in not the greatest game for him, fantasy-wise, he was still, I think, like a top 6 quarterback. Yeah, he finished QB6 on the dot. And then J.J. McCarthy was QB11, which was also pretty solid. Jalen Hurts, he was QB8. Aaron Rodgers was QB7. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to sustain that all season, but, like, it was nice to see him play well, even though I hate him. I hate his guts. Running backs, Dials has Saquon Barkley, Alvin Kamara. I love that duo. Saquon, great hero back to have. Alvin Kamara, great pass-catching abilities at the running back position. And then you go over to ATS, and you wonder how he's 1-0 because his running back room is DeAndre Swift, David Montgomery. In RB2 and DeAndre Swift. Go down to wide receivers. You see Deebo Samuel, who took all of my precious points for Terry McLaurin. And, of course, Justin Jefferson waiting to face that Falcon secondary, which is actually pretty underrated. And then on the other side, you have A.J. Brown, who I think will be perfectly fine, even though he played one of the worst games of all time last week. And then Ted McMillan, who was also pretty solid, I think, last week. He was not completely terrible. Tucker Kraft absolutely blew up this week on Thursday Night Football. We saw how that ended. I have Tucker Kraft in a lot of my leagues. I'm very happy about this, and I'm happy I'm not facing him this week. Njoku, I think, will be okay. DK Metcalf, Zay Flowers, I have a lot more faith in than Javonte Raheed Shaheed. I really don't like that he's starting Raheed Shaheed. Why? Oh, because Worthy's out. That's actually really bad for the man. No, you gotta feel bad for him, bro. Worthy was a really good flex to have in that spot, and now he's gone, and he has to start Raheed Shaheed. That's tough. And then it's also Eagles-Chiefs defense. That's funny, because they play each other. And then Zay, Metcalf, both very solid receivers. I take them over Javonte Raheed Shaheed every day. With that being said, though, I think overall I like Dials' team a bit more. I think Tucker Kraft blowing up as much as he did is going to be what fully propels Dials to a win here this week. And then finally, a team that I'm a little happy to see got better. Montez versus Cam, the 6 seed versus the 10 seed. So Montez had to lose Lamar this week because he needed a little bit of help, which is fair. I actually tried trading trading Jaden Daniels at one point this week, and I was trying to get him to Cam because I see Bryce Young in his lineup, and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? He didn't want him, so it's fine. Your loss. I will say I prefer Baker over Nix, Darnold over Young, even though Darnold was atrocious last week. We'll see how that plays out. Derrick Henry and, I still don't love it, but God knows he needed a running back. He got one in Trevion Henderson, who I think will be RB1 by the end of the year for the Patriots. He wasn't even that bad this week, or last week, but we'll see. Josh Jacobs had a pretty solid game, putting up 6-1, 6-7. I love that I get to make that joke twice. Chase Brown still to play against the questionable Jaguars defense. Then you got Tyreek Hill, who I have almost no faith in because I hate Tyreek Hill in fantasy. And then Garrett Wilson, who surprised a lot. The Jets' offense as a whole just went off last week. I'm happy about it. I don't know how long it's going to be sustained, but we'll see. Cortland Sutton, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. I think JSN's was a great pickup for him, even though he did lose Jamar. I don't love Cam's team as much as I did last week. I think I prefer Pitts over Fergie. I prefer Fergie over Pitts, with keeping matchups in mind. But then you go to the flex, and it's like, Ashton Jinty is at this man's flex, and then Amika Igbuka, who Wow, man. Amika went off. He got Ginty in one of his trades. Hollywood Brown, Calvin Ridley. I mean, shit, that's better than Cooper Kupp. Cardinals defense. Patriots defense. Not a big fan of either team, frankly. But I'm gonna give the win to. I'm gonna give the win to Cam. I like his flex. I think everything is relatively evened out, except for the flex, where I prefer Cam way over Montez. So, to recap, I have me beating Burrow. I have Adams assaulting Kawhi, I believe. That's what I said, right? Yeah, I have Adams beating Kawhi. I believe I said I gave minus a bit of an edge over Jay. I have Braden over Magnolia. I have Dials over ATS. And I have Cam defeating Montez. So if you enjoyed, do not forget to like, subscribe, turn on some notifications, all that good shit. Get some more updates on this league week by week. And before I let y'all go, because I really almost forgot to do this, let me quickly see if I can figure out. Okay. We'll go. We're going to view each trade. I traded Olave and Penix for Chuba Hubbard with Magnolia. There was a trade for Khalil Shakir for Kenneth Walker. Go down a bit. Braden traded Jerry Judy, J.K. No, I'm sorry. Cam traded Jerry Judy, J.K. Dobbins, Jamar Chase for Jinty JSN to Braden. This trade I'm not a big fan of at all, but he needed the running back, so I guess. Braden trades Baker and Travion Henderson for Lamar. Not a huge fan of that. You can see me scrolling through all these like free agency signings, and I think this is the last trade I have to go over. Aaron Jones, Drake London, Trey McBride, Jalen Warren for CeeDee Lamb, Brock Bowers. Which, okay, sure. I'm not a big fan of that one either. But yeah, that is now the end. So if you enjoyed, like, subscribe, turn on the notifications, and deuces.